Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm your host, DOTTLEY. This is the Common Sense Party Pod coming on you on a Sunday. A bloody Sunday, maybe? No, I don't think so. This is the Common Sense Party Pod. The Common Sense Party Pod's mission is to inform our listeners on topics that affect the everyday person. Rate, review, follow, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe and follow us. Please give us 5 stars, give us 4 stars, give us 3 stars, give us 2 stars. You can even give us 1 star. You don't give us any stars. Just assume you're popular. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on Spotify, Amazon Music, Samsung Podcast, Pandora Podcast. We have YouTube Music, formerly Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and we are on Apple. You can contact us at the Common Sense Party Pod at gmail.com. We're available on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, wherever you get your social media needs. Where you can support via Cash App or Zelle. The information is available on our about page of all our podcasts. Today, if you wasn't living up a rock, yes, someone tried to kill, if in quotes for our podcast users, tried to kill former President Trump. And if you read from the hat, was that hit staged? Call me skeptical, but there's a lot of things that aren't adding up. You can go to our TikTok account. I read a video about someone who has the same ideas as me that something sounds fishy. But let's get it started. I saw this while I was just perusing the other day, so I thought I'll start out our discussion with Blackish.
Let's say they listen to the cops and get in the car. Look what happened to Freddie Gray.
Yeah, and what if they make it all the way to the station?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Sandra Bland?
And let's say they do make it to trial. Mm-hmm. You see where that gets us? Don't you get it, Bo? The system is rigged against us.
Maybe it is, Dre. But I don't want to feel like my kids are living in a world that is so flawed that they can't have any hope.
Oh, so you want to talk about hope, Bo? Obama ran on hope. Remember when he got elected? And we felt like maybe, just maybe, we got out of that bad place and made it to a good place. That the whole country was really ready to turn the corner. You remember that amazing feeling we had during the inauguration? I was sitting right next to you. And we were so proud. And we saw him get out of that limo and walk alongside of it and wave to that crowd. Tell me you weren't terrified when you saw that. Tell me you weren't worried that someone was going to snatch that hope away from us like they always do. That is the real world, Bo. And our children need to know that that's the world that they live in. So let's watch it. Let's see what they're gonna say next.
Yep, we all lived in a world where hope was one of the things that we hold on to. But yeah, it's kind of looking like hope is almost here, but we gotta push through. We gotta push through and let them know that we will not forget that the people are the plan and the plan are the people. So we gotta keep it together. All right. We're gonna talk about Trump and his assassination attempt later, but we're gonna focus on inflation. A lot of people don't know what inflation is. It's used a lot. So I just found this video that'll help our listeners to see if we if we're able to give us some information on inflation. Check it out.
But ignoring one of its biggest causes, corporate concentration. Now, prices are undeniably rising. In response, the Fed is about to slow the economy, even though we're still at least 4 million jobs short of where we were before the pandemic. And millions of American workers won't get the raises they deserve. Republicans haven't wasted any time hammering Biden and Democratic lawmakers about inflation.
Skyrocketing inflation.
But don't fall for their fear-mongering. Everybody's ignoring the deeper structural reason for price increases, the concentration of the American economy into the hands of a very few corporate giants with the power to raise prices. If the market were actually competitive, corporations would keep their prices as low as possible as they competed for customers. Even if some of their costs increased, they would do everything they could to avoid passing those costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices, for fear of losing business to competitors. But that's the opposite of what we're seeing. Corporations are raising prices even as they rake in record profits. Corporate profit margins hit record highs last year. You see, these corporations have so much market power, they can raise prices with impunity. So the underlying problem isn't inflation per se, it's lack of competition. Corporations are using the excuse of inflation to raise prices and make fatter profits. Take the energy sector. Only a few entities have access to the land and pipelines that control the oil and gas power in most of the world. They took a hit during the pandemic, as most people stayed home. But they are more than making up for it now, limiting supply and ratcheting up prices.
Chevron, Exxon have doubled their profits. This isn't about inflation. This is about price gouging.
Or look at consumer goods. In April 2021, Procter & Gamble raised prices on staples like diapers and toilet paper, citing increased costs in raw materials and transportation. But P&G has been making huge profits. After some of its price increases went into effect, it reported an almost 25% profit margin. Looking to buy your diapers elsewhere? Well, good luck. The market is dominated by P&G and Kimberly-Clark, which not entirely coincidentally raised its prices at the same time. Another example. In April 2021, PepsiCo raised prices, blaming higher costs for ingredients, freight, and labor. It then recorded $3 billion in operating profits through September. How did it get away with this without losing customers? Pepsi has only one major competitor, Coca-Cola, which promptly raised its own prices. Coca-Cola recorded $10 billion in revenues in the third quarter of 2021, up 16% from the previous year. Food prices are soaring, but half of that is from meat, which costs 15% more than last year. There are only 4 major meat processing companies in America, which are all raising their prices and enjoying record profits. Get the picture? The underlying problem is not inflation, it's corporate power. Since the 1980s, when the U.S. government all but abandoned antitrust enforcement, all American industries have become more concentrated. Most are now dominated by a handful of corporations that coordinate prices and production. This is true of banks, broadband, pharmaceutical companies, airlines, meat packers, and, yes, soda. Corporations in all these industries and more could easily absorb higher costs, including long overdue wage increases, without passing them on to consumers in the form of higher prices, but they aren't. Instead, they're using their massive profits to line the pockets of major investors and executives, while both consumers and workers get shafted. How can this structural problem be fixed? Fighting corporate concentration with more aggressive antitrust enforcement. Biden has asked the Federal Trade Commission to investigate oil companies, and he's appointed experienced antitrust lawyers to both the Federal Trade Commission and the Justice Department. So don't fall for Republicans' fear-mongering about inflation. The real culprit here is corporate power.
Thank you. Yes, we have to. We have to vote people in who are aligned with our goals of stopping corporate greed, have the top 1 or 10% pay their fair share. They pay their fair share, and everything is gravy. The country goes even further. But again, the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer, and that's what they want to do. So we're gonna dive into wealth inequality. Yeah, I'm trying to teach y'all something today. Hopefully y'all will listen and this will get y'all to the polls and get this country back to where it is.
Musk's wealth has surpassed $200 billion. It would take the median U.S. worker over 4 million years to make that much. Wealth inequality is eating this country alive. We're now in America's second Gilded Age, just like the late 19th century, when a handful of robber barons monopolized the economy, kept wages down, and bribed lawmakers. While today's robber barons take joyrides into space, the distance between their gargantuan wealth and the financial struggles of working Americans has never been clearer. During the first 19 months of the pandemic, U.S. billionaires added $2.1 trillion to their collective wealth, and the rich have enough political power to cut their taxes to almost nothing, sometimes literally nothing. In fact, Jeff Bezos paid no federal income taxes in 2007 or in 2011. By 2018, the 400 richest Americans paid a lower overall tax rate than almost anyone else. But we can't solve this problem unless we know how it was created in the first place. Let's start with the basics. Wealth inequality in America is far larger than income inequality. Income is what you earn each week or month or year. Wealth refers to the sum total of your assets. Your car, your home, art, anything else you own that's valuable. Valuable not only because there's a market for it, a price other people are willing to pay to buy it, but because wealth itself grows. As the population expands and the nation becomes more productive, the overall economy continues to expand. This expansion pushes up the values of stocks, bonds, rental property, homes, and most other assets. Of course, recessions and occasional depressions can reduce the value of such assets, but over the long haul, the value of almost all wealth increases. Next, personal wealth comes from two sources. The first source is the income you earn but don't spend. That's your savings. When you invest those savings in stocks, bonds, or real property or other assets, you create your personal wealth, which, as we've seen, grows over time. The second source of personal wealth is whatever is handed down to you from your parents, grandparents, and maybe even generations before them. In other words, what you inherit. The wealth gap between the richest Americans and everyone else is staggering. In the 1970s, the wealthiest 1% owned about 20% of the nation's total household wealth. Now, they own over 35%. Much of their gains over the last 40 years have come from a dramatic increase in the value of shares of stock. For example, if someone invested $1,000 in 1978 in a broad index of stocks, say the S&P 500, they would have $31,823 today, adjusted for inflation. Who's benefited from this surge? The richest 1%, who now own half the entire stock market. But the typical worker's wages have barely grown. Most Americans haven't earned nearly enough to save anything. Before the pandemic, when the economy appeared to be doing well, almost 80% were living paycheck to paycheck. So as income inequality has widened, the amount that the few high-earning households save, their wealth, has continued to grow. Their growing wealth has allowed them to pass on more and more wealth to their heirs. Take, for example, the Waltons, the family behind the Walmart empire, which has 7 heirs on the Forbes billionaires list. Their children and other rich millennials will soon consolidate even more of the nation's wealth. America is now on the cusp of the largest intergenerational transfer of wealth in history. As wealthy boomers pass on, somewhere between $30 to $70 trillion will go to their children over the next 3 decades. These children will be able to live off this wealth and then leave the bulk of it, which will continue growing, to their own children, tax-free. After a few generations of this, almost all of America's wealth could be in the hands of a few thousand families. Concentrated wealth is already endangering our democracy. Wealth doesn't just beget more wealth, it begets more power. Dynastic wealth concentrates power in the hands of fewer and fewer people who can choose what nonprofits and charities to support and which politicians to bankroll. This gives an unelected elite enormous sway over both our economy and our democracy. We might come to resemble the kind of dynasties common to European aristocracies in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. Dynastic wealth makes a mockery of the idea that America is a meritocracy where anyone can make it on the basis of their own efforts. It also runs counter to the basic economic ideas that people earn what they're worth in the market, and that economic gains should go to those who deserve them. Finally, wealth concentration magnifies gender and race disparities because women and people of color tend to make less, save less, and inherit less. The typical single woman owns only 32 cents of wealth for every dollar of wealth owned by a man. The pandemic likely increased this gap. The racial wealth gap is even starker. The typical black household owns just 13 cents of wealth for every dollar of wealth owned by the typical white household. The pandemic likely increased this gap too. In all these ways, dynastic wealth creates a self-perpetuating aristocracy that runs counter to the ideals we claim to live by. The last time America faced anything comparable to the concentration of wealth we face today was at the turn of the 20th century. That was when President Teddy Roosevelt warned that, quote, a small class of enormously wealthy and economically powerful men whose chief object is to hold and increase their power, unquote, could destroy American democracy. Roosevelt's answer then was to tax wealth. Congress enacted 2 kinds of wealth taxes. The first, in 1916, was the estate tax, a tax on the wealth someone has accumulated during their lifetime, paid by the heirs who inherit that wealth. The second tax on wealth, enacted in 1922, was a capital gains tax, a tax on the increased value of those assets paid when those assets are sold. But both of these wealth taxes have shrunk since then, or become so riddled with loopholes that they haven't been able to prevent a new American aristocracy from emerging. The Trump Republican tax cut enabled individuals to exclude $11.18 million from their estate taxes. That means one couple can pass on more than $22 million to their kids tax-free. Not to mention the very rich often find ways around this tax entirely. As Trump's former White House National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn put it, only morons pay the estate tax. What about capital gains on the soaring values of wealthy people's stocks, bonds, mansions, and works of art? Here, the biggest loophole is something called the stepped-up basis. If the wealthy hold on to their assets until they die, their heirs inherit them without paying any capital gains taxes whatsoever. All the increased value of those assets is simply erased for tax purposes. This loophole saves heirs an estimated $40 billion a year. This means that huge accumulations of wealth in the hands of a relatively few households can be passed from generation to generation untaxed, growing along the way, generating comfortable incomes for rich descendants who will never have to work a day of their lives. That's the dynastic class we're creating right now. Why have these two wealth taxes eroded? Because as America's wealth has concentrated in fewer and fewer hands, the wealthy have more capacity to donate to political campaigns and public relations. And they've used that political power to reduce their taxes. It's exactly what Teddy Roosevelt feared so many years ago. So what do we do? Follow the wisdom of Teddy Roosevelt and tax great accumulations of wealth. The ultra-rich have benefited from the American system, from laws that protect their wealth, and our economy that enabled them to build their fortunes in the first place. They should pay their fair share. The majority of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, believe the ultra-rich should pay higher taxes. There are many ways to make them do so: closing the stepped-up basis loophole, raising the capital gains tax, and fully funding the Internal Revenue Service so it can properly audit the wealthiest taxpayers. For starters, beyond those fixes, we need a new wealth tax, a tax of just 2% a year on wealth in excess of $1 million. That's hardly a drop in the bucket for scented billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, but it would generate plenty of revenue to invest in healthcare and education so that millions of Americans have a fair shot at making it. One of the most important things you as an individual can do is take the time to understand the realities of wealth inequality in America and how the system has become rigged in favor of those at the top, and demand your political representatives take action to unrig it. Wealth inequality is worse than it has been in a century. We have to stop this vicious cycle and demand an economy that works for the many, not one that concentrates more and more wealth in the hands of a privileged few.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go out and vote. Yes, we should go out and vote. Yes, we should go out and vote so we can fix this wealth inequality and have corporations pay their fair share. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about how corporate media wants Donald Trump to win. And the reason why is they want clicks. They ain't worried about us because they're part of that system that, hey, if people are scared, they get paid. So, let's go ahead and check this one out.
And happy Friday. We have the box in the corner, Mike. Happy Friday. I have the box in the corner. You know, part of keeping it real is just being transparent. So I'm telling viewers, we could hear the president come out in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll alert you and we'll go hear it. Or it could be a little longer. We have the box up. We will be taking it. We can also say that because of the combined coverage last night, we got this number late in the day. The ratings tend to come out later in the day. Over 20 million Americans actually watched that speech last night. So it's up with the State of the Union and or the Super Bowl, much larger as that kind of level event. It was on all the networks. It was not a perfect press conference, but a lot of people felt it was a pretty good one. Your thoughts?
No, I thought it was a very good one. I mean, particularly given that everyone had, was placing the bar so low, you would think the man would be able to get out of bed to actually do the press conference, given the narratives. But no, the president is in this fight. I'm reminded, Ari, of a conversation I had when I was leaving New York last weekend. I was in the Moynihan train station waiting for the train, and an elderly Irishman came up to me. I said hello. We were chatting a little bit. And before he went to take his train, he turned back and he looked at me and he said, Joe Biden's not quitting this race. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because he remembers and is right now that 11-year-old kid who was bullied on the playground because of his stutter. And so he is in the fight. And when he's up against the bully and he sees both Donald Trump and quite honestly, members of his own party right now as bullies, who are trying to bully him out of this race. In the case of Donald Trump, trying to bully the country into an authoritarian regime. And he wants to stand in that fight. And so when you look at that 81-year-old man, now 41, and you see in him that fight, you got to have mad respect for that. I mean, I get what a lot of people are saying, but he's basically drawing the line and saying, if you want me out, come take me out. And so I hope the Democrats understand what they're about to get into. Maybe they'll have a rush of people who come out, Ari, and scream at the president to get out of the race. Maybe there will be private conversations with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi who encourage him to get out of the race, who tell him he can't win. But it seems to me the more you tell him he can't win, the more he knows he can. And what's interesting is the polling is showing his own base is consolidating around that idea that, yeah, he's old. We get it. We got it. He stumbles. He's always stumbled. He's been stumbling for 50 years. How many, gas reels do we have in Joe Biden? But I think this
Look, I don't want to
an important one.
Yeah, I don't want to over-compliment you, but your clarity is reminding us why we come to you, even in these big, politically tense, emotional stories. Because while there are, I think, understandable concerns on both sides, and I've covered both sides of this story, and the questions raised about the fitness of both these candidates, both these elderly men, by the way. The way I've said it for months is they're both above the retirement age. So we know they're both older, and you could debate how they both came into office, but they've both done the job in very different ways. They both are the presumptive nominees. That's the wording we use when the primaries are over, but the convention hasn't occurred. And generally, it's very unlikely that presumptive nominees don't become the nominees. So I've discussed that evidence with the viewers. The other thing that you're alluding to, whether you want to use an anecdote on the train station or the polling or the other indications we're getting, Michael, the narrators, and we are in our own ways, some of the narrators, but some of the DC narrators have been more emotional, more angry, more at times panicked than the audience, than the citizens.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, this will be up to the citizenry. So I say that by way of introduction before I get your response to all that, to D.L. Hughley, who's been on this program. He's a smart comic. He works with live audiences all the time. So like you and other people in politics, he actually has that feel. And I want to play some of what he said in his own, his own style, getting Biden's back and getting Biden. Yeah, in his DL way, getting Biden's back and also speaking to what you just referred to as that bullying or that pushback. Take a listen.
I watched a man get convicted of 34 felonies. I watched a man get adjudicated for sexual battery. I watched the man who got convicted of fraud. And never have I heard this fervor from the media in general about his qualifications to be president. And if you're going to have a conversation about how old he is, have a conversation about how old they want to take this country back to. And I have these conversations about George Clooney. Yeah, he's not the man he was in Ocean's 11. Name me a time when somebody gave up the incumbency and won. If you can vote for a convicted felon, I can vote for a cadaver.
That's how he put it. Your thoughts?
I love DL. I mean, that's the one thing I've always admired about. He keeps it real. And, he and I butted heads and stuff and policy and things like that. But he's always engaged in the conversation because he's that, as a comic, certainly, but as someone who is also an activist, he has his finger on a lot of pulses out there. And I think it's very true what he says. We've watched the story, the saga, the drama, the serial nature of Donald Trump unfold in front of our eyes. and you have not heard the media go to the same depth of DEFCON 7, and particularly given that there are only 5 levels in DEFCON. So that tells you something around Joe Biden and his aide. They just, I mean, it is stunned me. And I've had to deal with a lot of this crazy when I was at the RNC, and you say the least little thing and people lose their mind. But this has been absolutely apoplectic, over the top crazy. And the hand wringing and the pearl clutching and the big alligator tears. And here, this is the best part for me, Ali. The people, Ari, the people who say, oh, hey, you're a good guy. You were a great president. We love your service to the country. This sort of soft, killing me softly kind of approach. I mean, I think DL's got his finger on that. And a lot of voters out there don't appreciate it. 14 million people, Ari, voted for Joe Biden. And now you have the hue and cry of the media, the New York Times, and the Washington elites, party elected officials, who are screaming, we don't like your choice. Well, you go have that conversation with the 14 million people who voted for him and put somebody up and see what they do if that's not their choice. So this is the conundrum the Democrats have put themselves in. They need to get a grip. They need to get behind the 81-year-old guy. And if they need to wheel his ass over the finish line, that's what you do. Because the reality of it is this. The Republican Party is prepared to lift over their heads and coronate and put a papal crown on a serial person who's got all kinds of sexual abuse issues, fraud issues, criminal issues, and they're happy with that. And why are you so concerned about the guy who's just trying to finish the job? And to that point, Ari, you mentioned this before. He's doing the job. He's currently doing the job as an 81-year-old.
The right for a second.
And if folks can tell me where in the last 3 years between 78 and 81 that he screwed up the job, because I can recount you 1,000 episodes in Trump's 4 years where he screwed up the job, and COVID is not the tip of it. Show me where Biden screwed up doing the job as he's aged, and then we can have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Michael Steele walking us through this debate. We're going to take a look. They've just affixed the presidential seal. Let's take this in full. I'm talking to my colleagues in the control room on this breaking news night. Let's take a full look here. Yeah, they've affixed the presidential seal. I believe we heard from the pastor. I've been listening to Michael, but we've got our own team listening into the rally site where we know the president is moments away from this address in Detroit, Michigan. You can see the traditional trappings, the seal now up on the lectern, the teleprompter there, as both candidates and many candidates use. I'm sorry, let me correct one thing I said. The pastor, who is the final person speaking before the president, is about to come out, I should say. So they've affixed the seal for what is, we expect to be the brief introduction, and then the president walks out. And so, Michael, you and the viewers, we're all watching this along together. While we keep an eye on this, I'm also going to briefly show some of the other facts. Michael, you've worked around politics, and I've covered a lot of this stuff, and there are people who get into the West Wing movie mode. The true deadline here for the Democrats is almost certainly August 7th. That's the current scheduled date for the roll call vote that would occur prior to the convention. And long before this debate issue, what you see there on August 7th, the Dem delegate roll call vote, was partly a response to efforts in Ohio by Republicans to play around. I'm going to summarize that and keep it brief, but to play around with deadlines and whether or not the Democratic nominee would be official by then. And so the Democratic lawyers said, okay, we'll just hold it early and we'll skip any debate. September, of course, you have the second scheduled debate if they both do it. There's no law that forces them, but that was the agreement. And early voting in September, you see, and then early voting in key swing states begins in early October. Michael, how does that calendar line up against what Joe Biden's doing right now, which is doing a campaign rally in Michigan, one of those 3 key blue wall states, as they call it, that he would need to win and would need the early voting and everything else to come into perspective for him? And how does that compare to what you were just discussing, which was a sort of a Washington or or elite conversation about trying to maybe make a change with what are basically about, if you use August 7th, about 25 days left.
Right. Yeah, look, the Democrats, and I want to be very clear, because rank and file baseline Democrats are consolidating around the president. There's more than 3 or 4 polling, examples out there now for that. So that's an important piece of the narrative here. You cannot dismiss it. Even when you have in our own polling at NBC News and others that show 67 to 75% of those asked should Joe Biden run again say no. But when the next question is, who would you vote for between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, the answer comes back 45-45 or 46-45. So the reality of it is there's a consolidation that's happening right now in the political marketplace among rank and file Democrats across the nation who are looking at Joe Biden and saying, oh, yeah, everybody's just figured out he's old. Yeah, he's old, but I like him. He's better than the criminal.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure.
That's no. But okay. Let's address 2 or 3 things that was said. 2 or 3 things that were said. 1, he has earned the right for his second term. The economy is better under Biden than under Trump. Biden has accomplished more. Even with a split House and Senate, he's accomplished more than Trump. Okay. All we have to do is win the House, keep the Senate, keep those 3 during his second term, and America will fundamentally change forever. Because I've always said this, I'll say it again, this is, in my opinion, when he wins his second term, after year 1 or year 2, Kamala Harris will be the first Black female Indian president in American history. After that, it's going to be between her and Gavin Newsom. Kamala Harris is fit to be president, just as Hillary Clinton was fit to be president. I think this is the only way we can get a female president in right now, because America will not vote her in. We won't vote her in. Third thing, the part about the bully. Have you ever stood up to a bully? Because the Republicans try to bully, Trump try to bully, and you gotta stand your ground, because they continue to push and push and push and push. So they don't like you pushing back, but you gotta constantly push back. And also, to his stuttering or stammering or forgetting. Have you ever had a stuttering or stammering problem? I have, and I work on it all the time. And the most fearful thing is when you say something wrong and your mind races faster than your mouth gets to it. So I understand what he goes through. So I don't think he's old. I just think he is cognizant that he has a stammering or stuttering problem, and he's the president of the United States, and he deserves a second term. All right. Moving on to the Trump's being, I'll talk about the economy. Check this out.
That was proven time and time again. Like, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. There's never been an economy of any under me. It all worked. We had the greatest economy in history. I got the largest tax cuts in history. I got the largest regulation cuts in history.
We've had the greatest economy in the history of America. And in fact, he said yet last night, until COVID hit, I had the strongest and best economy ever. The data you just put up there accounts for that. You said, let's be fair and let's consider COVID. Is there any accuracy to what Donald Trump says there.
No, I think it is right here. It is right here. He not only didn't have the greatest economy ever, he didn't even have the greatest economy of the last two presidents. 2.6% for Donald Trump, 3.6% for Joe Biden, with, I will tell you, is a completely honest and fair removal of COVID from the statistics.
Oh, that's gonna hurt! Now, we know for a fact Trump lies. It's as natural as breathing to him. In fact, it's out of breath you'll find CNN's fact checker after one of Trump's rallies.
The 2020 election, we know that's a flat-out lie. Trump said Joe Biden cheats on election. Another lie. Trump said he's leading in, quote, every single poll. He leads in many polls, but trails in a whole bunch of others. Trump said he won South Carolina by 40 or 50 points. That's not true in any primary or general election. He said every legal scholar wanted Roe v. Wade overturned and abortion policy returned to the states. Totally wrong. Multiple legal scholars have told me personally that they had themselves wanted Roe preserved. He said every Democrat, he said for the most part, wanted Roe overturned. A complete reversal of reality. Huge majorities of Democrats supported Roe. Trump said Democrats want to change federal law to allow the execution of babies after birth, another out-and-out fabrication. He said he will, quote, stop Joe Biden's sinister plan to abolish the suburbs. No such plan, of course, exists. And Trump said the BleachBit email deletion software used by Hillary Clinton's team years ago is, quote, so expensive. It is actually free of charge.
That is a oldie but goodie. Daniel, wow. Take a sip of water. Take a deep breath.
But a constant lie he continues to say that drives me up the wall. No, not that he won in 2020. Another whopper, that he had the, quote, greatest economy the country has ever seen. With a straight face, he says this, knowing that he left office with less jobs than when he took it.
In fact, only two presidents in American history with fewer jobs the day they left office than when they started. One was President Hoover, and the other was Donald Hoover Trump. Seriously, only two presidents in American history. And look, you may remember my predecessor promised to be the greatest job president in history. Well, it didn't really work out that way. He lost 2 million jobs over the course of his presidency. 2 million. We've created 13.4 million new jobs. We not only recovered all the jobs we lost during the pandemic, we've added millions more. We've seen record lows in unemployment, particularly, and I've focused on this my whole career, particularly for African Americans and Hispanic workers and veterans.
And listen, I know his supporters love to cling to the COVID frame, all while completely overlooking the fact that, one, he has no problem touting his gas prices or inflation during COVID.
All in the wrong places. I had no inflation and had the greatest economy ever. We had gasoline at $1.87. Now it's $4 or $5. But by the way, they're working together with other countries, sadly, because it's artificial, because they're going to give it up right after the election. You've seen that before. But they're working to get gasoline prices down. It's an artificial reduction. But the gasoline was up to $6, $7, $8 a gallon. And it still is very high. It's much too high. But we had...
He wants a good parts, but ignores the whole telling people to inject bleach thing.
And then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that?
I want to go back to this dumb shit.
Injection inside or...
Two, he was the president during that time. You can't just overlook that because it's inconvenient. He was telling people it would go away and lambasting governors and senators for asking for more ventilators.
The feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have 2 ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators? So, look, it's a very bad situation. We haven't seen anything like it. But the end result is we got to get back to work, and I think we can start by opening up certain parts of the country, you know.
He woefully mismanaged it, and therefore deserves scrutiny. But anyway, he says this a lot, right, that his economy was the best. And thankfully, MSNBC host and Wall Street financier Steve Ratner had a response to such bogus claims, that it's not true, it's not even close.
But look what's been happening in the last year. Probably people don't realize this. First of all, inflation has come way down, and it is very close, as Jerome Powell suggested in his testimony yesterday. It's getting very close to where the Fed could cut interest rates as soon as September. And secondly, for more than a year, wage growth has been higher than inflation. In other words, the wage growth, the black line, higher than the green line. And so we are making up ground and it is moving in the right direction.
One of the arguments we've heard, Steve, we heard it again last night from Donald Trump, is that effectively, if it weren't for COVID, I would have had the greatest economy in the history of America. And in fact, he said yet last night, until COVID hit, I had the strongest and best economy ever. The data you just put up there accounts for that. You said, let's be fair and let's consider COVID. Is there any accuracy to what Donald Trump says there?
No, I think it is right here. It is right here. He not only didn't have the greatest economy ever, he didn't even have the greatest economy of the last two presidents. 2.6% for Donald Trump, 3.6% for Joe Biden, with, I will tell you, is a completely honest and fair removal of COVID from the statistics.
All right.
And the reason something like this is especially important to push back on is because for whatever reason, polls somehow show that large swaths of the population trust the economy more in the hands of Trump than Biden. I know this is more than the man who resuscitated an almost dead economy that he inherited from the man who tripled the national debt.
Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, one of these nonpartisan fiscal watchdog groups, put this out today, which kind of puts a fine point on it. Right? That's who added what to the debt. When you compare Trump's term in office with Joe Biden's term in office. And no, you can't blame COVID. They actually break out the COVID spending. That's the bit in the lighter red color there. So yes, Donald Trump and Joe Biden both spent on the pandemic. They had to. But even if you wipe that out, Trump added trillions more to the debt and the deficit than Biden did, regardless of COVID.
To which it is now soaring. Record-breaking stock market, unemployment, wages, inflation falling below target.
When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months, because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
Fox News alert here as we take a look at the markets. And the U.S. stock market continues to hit record high after record high. You're looking at a fresh 300-point gain on the Dow right now, hitting its highs of the session. The S&P 500, which is a snapshot of the broader U.S. stock market, is hitting an all-time high, surpassing the previous record set 2 years ago. So, wow, there continues to be a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of optimism in the U.S. stock market. There's still anticipation the Federal Reserve will cut rates this year.
It's up around 400 points. The Kudlow Trust is doing well. Techs and AI stocks are leading the way.
They say the stock market will boom if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
12 seconds later.
Finished the week 10-year about 4.14%. And that is going to do it in the 48.30 for the S&P 500. Closes out. That's it right there. Let's send it over to overtime with Morgan and John.
There is few things more frustrating than the fact that the messaging surrounding this economy gets lost amidst the gaffe-off that Trump's team loves. So it's the job of the media to cut through the noise, like this, showcasing the fact that mental acuity is also judged by performance.
Because I believe in this man. I believe in his character. I believe that he has been one of the most transformative presidents in our collective lifetime.
2021.
I really believe
2021.
There's a decency to Joe Biden. And I'm old-fashioned. Character matters, but I'm also old-fashioned in this respect. Results matter. Politics is not just performative, not just entertainment. It's about getting things done. And it's been a remarkable 3.5 years from my perspective. It's been, dare I say, a masterclass.
Especially when both candidates have done the job, right? So we look at margins, profit loss, legislation passed, the opinion of those around said leader.
In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people.
Well, I did do that.
This
and we
time,
had tremendous. Look, we had the best economy we've ever had.
This
the world
time
has ever seen.
Your Vice President, Mike Pence, is running against you.
Yeah.
Your Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, she's running against you. Your former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said he's not supporting you. You mentioned National Security Advisor John Bolton. He's not supporting you either. You mentioned Attorney General Bill Barr, says you shouldn't be president again, calls you a consummate narcissist and troubled man. You recently called Barr a gutless pig. Your second Defense Secretary is not supporting you, called you irresponsible.
When you draw on all those conclusions and still somehow come away with the idea that Trump did a better job in regards to the economy, then I'm afraid you might be in a cult.
But I want to challenge the premise. You said the economy, 13.1 million jobs he's created. More.
These are post-COVID jobs. You know that.
Well,
I mean, that's an artificial number.
No. Then let me stipulate this as an opportunity to engage civilly on this.
Okay.
Fair point. Your president, Donald Trump, lost 2.6 million jobs during his 4 years. We created 13.1 million. Fine, you can maintain a COVID frame. How about the fact that Joe Biden's created more jobs, 6 times more jobs than the previous 3 Republican presidents combined?
Are you going to tell me?
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/.
All right, Midas Touch. Thank you for that. But again, you want to go back to that? He's a liar. Yes, he is a liar, and he's a convicted felon, and he's not good for the people. He's good for his friends, but he's not good for the people. The people meaning common working men, people who struggle, people who gotta go from check to check. He ain't good for us. So, we're gonna go to the story of the weekend because it's the story of the weekend. I think this is staged, in my personal opinion, because when you see the video, it looks staged. I'm sorry, it does. He didn't get shot. He got hit by shrapnel, and the person who was up on a building 200 feet away missed. So check this out.
Speaking at his rally. Let's watch that video.
Take a look at what happened.
Condolences to the people who died. Condolences to the people who are in critical condition. This is why I think this is.
Okay.
This is why I think this is staged.
So what you are watching is video from just a few moments ago, when former President Donald Trump was on stage at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. You see the Secret Service who were surrounding him. You see how they got him to the ground.
No one's moving.
And that they were waiting to move him after we heard those noises. We don't know what those noises were at this point.
No one's moving.
We do know that they get him off the stage and that the former president was in his armored vehicle. They have now left the site of that incident. So the former president, Donald Trump, no longer there at that rally site in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm going to let you watch more to see this full thing unfold. You see they move him off the stage.
No.
Let me get my shoes. Hold on, your head is
Right now.
So
Look at this.
He is standing up.
Right here.
Watch out.
It's unclear
Right here.
what his status is, but you see him put his fist up, and you see him doing a fist pump. It appears like he's saying fight. It looks as if there might be blood on his ear. Again, these are pictures we are just seeing for the first time right now as the former president is led off the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, after we heard loud noises and he was rushed to the ground, and then you see the Secret Service around him, getting him into his vehicle. Now, we do not know where he has gone. We just know that he was put into that car right there. While you see his fist in the air, it does appear as if there is some blood on his ear. Unclear how that happened. Secret Service get him into the vehicle and rush him off that site and get him out of there. Again, we don't know where the former president is at this exact moment, only that he was taken away from the rally site there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Again, if you were just tuning in, former President Donald Trump was minutes into his rally there in Pennsylvania when we heard loud noises. He was thrown to the ground by Secret Service agents who then rushed him in, as you're watching now, to that car and drove him off site. Our reporter, Elena Treen, witnessed this all unfold. Elena, I think you're here with us. I want to go out to Elena so she can tell us more of what she saw from her vantage point. Elena?
Hi, Jessica. Yeah, so it's been a very chaotic couple of minutes.
a lot of tension right now out here. So, as you mentioned, Donald Trump was on stage. It was just moments after he had walked onto the stage to deliver remarks. He was very briefly into that. And so I'm going to show you behind me. So around this area, somewhere off on that field over there, is where we heard a bunch of banging or cracking, loud cracking noises. At first I thought, is that fireworks? I had no idea what it was. All of a sudden, everyone started screaming. On the other side of the rally, on the other side of the stage, a lot of steam went off back here, right behind that tractor over there, if you can see it. And all of a sudden, you heard Secret Service security guards on the ground, everyone telling everyone to get down, to move, to move. I actually had to jump off this riser right here and went under the riser, so I didn't get to see everything that was happening as Donald Trump was being moved off on the ground. That they had
pictures coming out of Butler, Pennsylvania, where some loud noises were heard. We don't know exactly what they were yet. All we know is that former President Donald Trump was speaking. We heard the loud noises. He was several minutes into his speech. He dropped to the ground. Secret Service swarmed the stage. They lifted him back up. He put a fist in the air. He did appear to have blood coming from his ear. We now know that he was whisked away. He was put into one of those armored vehicles and whisked away. He has left that site. So that is
really kind of a launching pad to the Republican convention national event. So you can see there the crowd has cleared.
Oh, God. Look, man. Okay, I heard the Secret Service say, get down, get down. But guess what? How can you hear shots fired, you get down, and you stay fucking still? All those people weren't in shock. And if it was fight or flight, all those motherfuckers was dead. You can't tell me. They had kids doing there, and because the Secret Service says get down, everybody got down, and nobody ran. Nobody. Over probably like maybe 1,500 people. Nobody ran? Really? Nobody? All right, so let's go to Midas Touch. Again, condolences to the people who lost their lives. Fuck the shooter. We don't condone violence, but like I said, I think it was staged.
In this country and abroad, a video that we here at the Midas Touch Network unequivocally condemn all forms of political violence in this country and abroad. It has no.
We here at the Common Sense Party podcast, Cartoon Network podcast, and the Ninja of the Color podcast condemn political violence.
No place in our political system, no place in the world. What took place in Butler, Pennsylvania is not a laughing matter, deserves to be taken incredibly serious, despite the fact that I think that Donald Trump is an existential threat to this country. What took place there should never, ever occur in our system, period. Full stop. I'm not going to stop, though, our data-driven coverage here and call out what actually transpired. I'm not going to ignore the data. Some of these historically awful takes by corporate media always want to cast things of, why is this great for Donald Trump and MAGA, and why is this bad for President Biden? Just report the facts. Just report the facts and stop those narratives. Here are the facts. The FBI officially identified Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, as the shooter. Thomas Matthew Crooks was wearing that Second Amendment paraphernalia. He's a registered Republican, white male. So all the MAGA Republicans afterwards who were trying to blame this on like DEI, like Tommy Lahren, things that that she was saying afterwards and others like that. She goes, I'm just throwing this out there. How about after a shooting, you don't just throw something out there? Tommy Lahren, right-wing media personality, goes, I'm just throwing this out there, but maybe the former president should have all former military men and preferably special operators protecting him instead of DEI hires. Just spitballing here. That's your take? Now, she's a far right-wing propagandist, but just take a look at some of the takes. This is a take from Forbes. These are historically bad corporate media takes right here. Forbes writes, will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters? That's an actual article from Forbes right there. Will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters? What a horrific headline. Why would that? What are you even talking about? Or how about this from The Spectator, from Kate Andrews? She goes, today we are all MAGA. Newsflash, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're not all MAGA. This incident doesn't bring solidarity with a MAGA movement in any way, a movement that has based on inciting political violence. It's not just me criticizing. I'll show clips of that in just a moment. But no, the take isn't today we are all MAGA. The take is simple. Condemn political violence in all of its forms. Call out the behavior in the strongest possible terms, what transpired in Butler, Pennsylvania. The fact that that shooter was brought to justice and the Secret Service act bravely and showed a great degree of heroism in them, but it only takes today we're all.
Another thing. Wouldn't it be more pertinent for you to keep him alive so you can find out if there's anybody else?
All MAGA? What are you even talking about? You know, and then even before the shooting took place, this was the headline earlier in the day that Brian Stelter pushed. This was before the shooting took place. And I had a comment on this because everything, quite literally everything, the corporate media casts as a pro-Trump narrative, strong, strength, macho, and why this is going to be hurting President Biden. It's ridiculous. Just focus on the facts here. This is Brian Stelter's post. Rarely has a presidential election been so defined by the gender gap and masculine versus feminine framing. It's Donald Trump's chest-beating macho appeals versus Joe Biden's softer, reproductive rights dominated, all-gender inclusivity. Excuse me, calling Donald Trump's behavior macho. This is someone who's been found liable for sexual assault, who's in the Epstein files, who's on video bragging about sexually assaulting women. He says that when you're rich and famous, they let you do it and you can get away with it. Donald Trump's on audio bragging that he would go into his beauty pageants and without consent inspect naked girls. Donald Trump's on audio tape talking about how he thinks about, or what he has in common with Ivanka is sex. Talking about a convicted felon, someone who's bankrupted his companies. That's not a what are those qualities macho? And why is it not? It's not macho standing up for people. It's all of a sudden macho when Donald Trump mocks people who are disabled, mocking the disabled, mocking veterans and calling them suckers and losers. But it's not macho to focus on protecting women's freedoms and focusing on gender inclusivity. I mean, it's just a ridiculous headline. And this is the type of things that they push. I want to show you this, though. You know, I know the media is going to, push their own narratives, but just take a look at what happened here. So after the shooting takes place, while the Secret Service is there, what was Donald Trump's first response? What was his first reaction to the crowd? He goes, fight. Fight, and then he makes a hand gesture. You could look for yourself what he did. Let me just show it to you. Here, play this clip. He tells the Secret Service to wait as they're trying to protect his life. He has them wait there, he says, so he can make his gesture to the crowd. Here, play this clip.
Wait.
Look as Congressmember Eric Swalwell said, and I think this is how it should be framed. I don't know why a Republican would try and kill his party's own nominee with an assault rifle. The shooter was a white Republican man, 20 years old. But it's wrong. Violence has never been the answer. Violence is not the answer. Violence will not be the answer. Of course, you have all the MAGA Republican takes right away, like MAGA Republican Congressman Mike Collins, who says Joe Biden sent the orders. The Republican district attorney in Butler County should immediately file charges against Joseph R. Biden for inciting an assassination. That's an actual member of Congress, or J.D. Vance, actual member of Senate, MAGA Republican, goes, today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to Trump's attempted assassination. No, it didn't. It absolutely didn't. You're a liar. And Donald Trump goes out there and talks about being a dictator. That's why it's being criticized, because Trump's out there saying that he wants to be a dictator for a day or day one. Here, Donald Trump, we're not supposed to criticize this. In American politics, we're now supposed to normalize it. And because of this incident, we're supposed to act like the person doesn't want to be a dictator. What are we talking about, folks? What are we talking about here? Here's Donald Trump saying that he wants to be a dictator on day one or for one day. Here, play this clip.
I love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.
Here's Donald Trump at a speech reiterating that that's what he wants. He says he wants to be a dictator. He says, for one day, I'll be a dictator. I've never heard anybody in the history of America running on the platform of dictatorship. I'm not supposed to call that out. We're not supposed to do anything. No, they want us to just go away. They want to use anything to make us afraid to just call out what's happening before our eyes. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. I'm going to keep reporting here on the Midas. Nothing's going to change. I'm going to keep reporting the facts. That's what's not going to change. Facts and data. Like here, play this clip of Trump.
When Sean Hannity the other night, I did a town hall. He's a good guy, too. He is a good guy. But he said, okay, because he wanted to, you're not going to be a dictator. I said, no, Sean, I'm going to be a dictator. I said that. Right. These guys know it better than I do. I'm going to be a dictator for one day. And we're going to build the wall. We're going to complete the wall because we built it. But we're going to clean up that hole. We're going to stop and we're going to finish. He could have finished it in 2 weeks. You know, we built over 500 miles of wall. I could have finished it in 2 weeks. That's when I realized where I was going. But I said, Sean, I'm going to be a dictator. But one day we're going to do the wall and we're going to become energy independent. We're going to drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill. And then I said, right? Because he's right there. He's on the ball, this guy. Well, he's a caucus captain. I want one of those hats, too. I like that hat more than... That is a great hat. I'm going to be, look, I'm doing caucus. I don't know if I'm a captain. I think I'll just be one of the regular folks back there. The captains are big shots with those hats. Those hats are beautiful, white and gold. But I also said to him, right, and then I'm not going to be a dictator. And on one day, I said, one day, we're going to stop the invasion of our country, number one, and we're going to become energy independent. We're going to drill, baby, drill. And then I said, and then I'm not going to be a dictator any longer. So the fake news said, I'm going to be a dictator. In other words, that's where they cut it. I said I'm going to be a dictator for one day, right? They said, I'm going to be a dictator. They cut the one day out. They cut everything out. And the headline was, Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. We've known it for years, but he's admitted it.
Oh, here's what Politico wrote. Give you another historical bad take. Politico, as my brother Brett writes, registered Republican shoots Republican presidential candidate. Politico's headline is, will this hasten calls from Democrats for Biden to drop out of the race? What's less clear is whether the shooting hastens the Democratic calls for Biden to withdraw from the race. Most elected Democrats responded to the shooting by denouncing political violence. And if you wanted to discuss how it may echo in the campaign, what are you even talking about, Politico? I'm telling you, they've all lost their damn minds in the corporate media. They don't know how to think straight. They don't know how to report basic facts. Donald Trump going to a high school talking about golden showers. That's one of the things that he does at his campaign events. Here, play this clip.
He was with 4 hookers. You think that was good that night to go up and tell my wife, it's not true, darling, I love you very much? It's not true. Actually, that one she didn't believe because she said he's a germaphobe. He's not into that, you know? He's not into golden showers, as they say they call it. He's not. I don't like that idea. No, I didn't. I thought that would be a big problem. I was going to have a rough night, but that one she was very good on. She said, no.
Donald Trump going to churches and leading curse word chants in churches with children. Here, play the clip.
So they come up with something that's fake, just like everything else they do. It's all fake. The impeachments are fake. The court cases are a disgrace to our country. Everything is fake. So they come up with this order. I won't say it because I don't like using the word bullshit in front of these beautiful children. So I won't say it. I will not say it. But this thing allows millions of people.
And I guess to the media, that's macho. I guess to corporate media, they're upset that we at the Midas Touch Network call out this behavior, that we call out who the shooter was, that we push back against these completely deranged and unhinged narratives. I mean, by the way, you want to take a look at despite all the media tsunami that they've been doing over the past week, this is the NBC poll that dropped. I know this is not the way the media wants the poll to be, and I'm not a fan of polls, but the new NBC poll showed President Biden leading by 3 points in a three-way race. After all they've been pushing over and over and over again on the American people. Because I think American people see, these Christmas cards by these MAGA Republicans with the guns and the AR-15 pins, and it's the shooter was a Republican. But you want to know my view on the Second Amendment? I believe in responsible gun ownership. Period. Full stop. That's it. I'm not anti-Second Amendment. All the responsible gun owners I speak to believe that there should be responsible gun ownership, and that this kind of fetishization of real gun owners I know are like, what is they think this fetishization with all of the stuff is bizarre. And that's not part of being a responsible gun owner. The pins that they pass out in Congress, the MAGA Republicans, look, we're going to just provide fact-based coverage here of the Midas Touch Network, what's going on. And the bottom line is if they get upset and go, well, why are you comparing Donald Trump's quotes to Hitler? Because look at them. Look at the quotes. That's why. That's why. It's not making a random comparison.
What kind of bullshit is that? This All right, kids. Ooh. We got get him out of office. Out of office. Got to get him out of office. Let's talk more about the Trump setup.
Lieutenant Tim McMillan on Twitter said, having personally worked several presidential and vice presidential security details, here's some of my thoughts based on the available info of the assassination attempt on Trump. It's a thread that reads, 1. The Secret Service employ a multi-tiered defense in-depth approach to protective missions. An inner tier offer close protection support, these being the agents you see rushing in and surrounding Trump after the initial shots go off. That is the innermost tier, the people that are close around Donald Trump. A second middle tier is tasked with identifying and defending against mid-range threats, for example, the crowd. This tier is largely comprised of local and state law enforcement temporarily attached to the security detail. This is the area that I worked in on prior details, which makes a lot of sense. So if you've been trained, if you're a trained Secret Service agent, then you were Donald Trump's closest tier. But if you're a trained law enforcement that works in the area, you're in this second tier because you don't have the specific training needed to protect the president at a close level. Finally, you have an extended tier, which covers long-distance threats. This can include counter-sniper rifles and cyber/SIGINT support and CBRN defense. 2. People have wondered how could the counter-snipers in the videos not have seen the would-be assassin prior to him getting off a shot. This is because the area of responsibility for those counter-snipers on the roof behind Trump was very likely in the extended tier. Essentially, they were scanning for threats a great distance well beyond the roughly 150 meters the threat appeared. I've read anywhere from 150 to 300 meters. This is evidenced by the fact that the elevated counter-sniper has to dramatically drop his line of sight to respond to the shooter. And you can see that in the video. The sniper on the roof has to drop his line of sight, and he only has a few seconds to respond. We'll get into that. Secret Service advanced teams would have absolutely pre-scouted the location and identified the building the shooter used as a vulnerable spot in the defense, which begs the question, how was this guy still able to climb on the roof and get off a shot? Based on limited details at this point, in my opinion, security breakdown occurred in the middle tier, the second tier, which would likely include law enforcement who were supposed to be assigned to the area near the outer buildings. How that significant of a breakdown could occur is up for speculation. However, like I said, this tier is largely dependent on local law enforcement and not the Secret Service. So speculatively, the local LEOs who were supposed to be in the area and make sure no one with a gun climbed up on the roof effed up. People have said that witnesses saw the guy with a gun on the roof, told police, but that they failed to respond and prevent the assassination attempt. So how does that happen? Well, there's typically limited lines communication between the Secret Service and the local LEOs working the middle tier. You usually have 1 or 2 local law enforcement officer liaisons who have direct communication with the Secret Service. This means communications on the ground between local law enforcement officers being told about the shooter are being routed through dispatch to local liaisons, then to Secret Service. Compounding the difficulty to rapidly respond is the fact that there's always some confusion and inefficiency when multiple different law enforcement officer agencies come together to work a detail. Most of these agencies aren't used to working with each other and aren't given much information beyond a few pre-event briefings. I actually saw what can go wrong in these scenarios firsthand when President Bush's Secret Service detail almost engaged a local police SWAT/counter-sniper team during the 2004 G8 summit. No one had properly communicated the local SWAT team's position, so all the Secret Service saw was heavily armed individuals with a line of sight on the president. The whole thing was seconds away from being a tragic accident. In the same vein, there was likely some delay and confusion with the initial reports of a person with a gun on the roof, as local cops and Secret Service agents would all be trying to confirm the shooter didn't belong to one of the security support teams. So in summary, when looking for blame in this massive security failure, if I was a betting man, I'd say the answer rests with whatever detail likely local law enforcement officers were assigned to the area near the outbuildings. I'll also add that I worked 5 presidential details as a local law enforcement officer in attachment, even though I was in close proximity for each detail, and only 2 of them did I actually ever see the president or vice president. That was Bush while he was in the limo driving away, and Cheney. But that was because I was on inner protection, feet away from him. You're explicitly trained that your eyes are always on the crowd, surroundings, and potential threats, never on the president themselves, for obvious reasons. Now, my experience is entirely limited to official presidential visits, which are planned at least months, and in some cases a year in advance. It's likely that some of the breakdowns or issues I mentioned can be exponentially increased when it comes to campaign trips, as these stops come up or change on very short notice. And I have firsthand experience with that. I go to a lot of MAGA rallies, and they are scheduled a lot of the times only 3 or 4 days in advance. So I can imagine a reality where they scheduled this rally maybe 5 days ago. Actually, I know for a fact they only scheduled this rally about a week ago, so maybe the local law enforcement officers didn't have time to fully vet the area. But remember, here's how Trump responded to Nancy Pelosi being targeted in an assassination attempt and her husband being beaten nearly to death with a hammer. Political violence has no place in a democratic society. We must always condemn it.
And we'll stand up to crazy Nancy Pelosi who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know?
This was Trump's response.
And she's against building a wall at our border, even though she has a wall around her house. Which obviously do a very good
Just
job.
totally terrible, vacuous talking points. That reminds me of this post right here. 2016, F your feelings. 2017, you lost, get over it. 2018, drinking your liberal tears. 19, 4 more years, bitches. 2020, stop the count. Water the tree of liberty. 2022, burn the groomer books. 2023, where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? 2024, wow, I'm horrified by political violence. I can't imagine how we ever got to this point. We used to be a unified country. Who could do this? Literally, Republicans are the biggest crybabies in the world, and if we want to be objective, yes, Donald Trump was the victim of a shooting today, but the way that Republicans are acting like their rhetoric wasn't ratcheting up the tension in America, hasn't been doing that for the past 8 to 10 years, then they are in a different reality. We also have elected officials calling for investigations. Representative Ruben Gallego said, "Dear Director Cheadle, I write regarding the assassination attempt of President and presumptive Republican Party nominee Donald Trump. As you are aware, it's a sworn duty of the Secret Service under the direction of the Secretary of Homeland Security to protect former presidents and major presidential candidates. Yesterday's incident, which led to the tragic death of an onlooker and several injuries, including to President Trump, raises grave concerns regarding security measures or lack thereof." He says, "As an American, a veteran, and a public servant to the greatest democracy in the history of the world, I demand answers to the following questions. Did the Trump campaign request additional protection or resources for this event? If so, were those resources denied, and why? Did the Secret Service detail, separate from President Trump's campaign team, request additional resources? Who approved the security plan for this event? Was a proper threat assessment of nearby buildings even conducted? Did attendance of the event raise any alarms? If so, how were any concerns handled before the attempted assassination? Were there any failures in protocol that enabled the shooting? If not, how was President Trump, one of only 6 living current or former presidents and a current major presidential candidate, almost assassinated, and what needs to change? Will the Secret Service reconsider its denial of protection for presidential candidate RFK Jr.?" I don't know why Gallego put that last question in there, but some of those questions are absolutely valid. There have been reports that people called out the shooter and the cops failed to act, and I explained why that might have been the case earlier, but these are completely valid questions, and I think any responsible investigation would have these questions being answered, right? Either way.
Yep. Seems like a cover-up. Not a cover-up, but could have been a mishandling of information. But this is another reason why I think it was staged.
He's from this community, from Butler. Robert, come here and talk to us if you will. You can come a little closer. Sure. You stopped us here. We're here doing our show, and you stopped us, and you wanted to talk to me. And you wanted to tell me something. We just heard the mayor there of Slippery Rock talk about the other Butler rally that he had been to. You were talking to me about that rally as well. Tell me the message you wanted me to understand, because there was something different about that rally versus this rally that you noticed.
Yeah, my daughter and I went, I guess it was 4 years ago, at the Butler Airport, not even 5 miles from here. It was an awe-inspiring event. We were just like, wow. But the one thing we noticed, we walked in there, and her and I, you know, we're close. And the one thing we noticed that the airport has a lot of hangars, buildings kind of like this, but they hold planes. Every rooftop of every hangar had 3, 4, 5 guys on top of it with
When you
guns.
say guys, snipers, law enforcement with long guns on top.
Long guns, yes, and even some of them in the sniper position, just scanning everywhere. And my daughter turned to me.
To the point where you got there, you noticed them right away.
Immediately. It was the first thing she said to me. She goes, "Oh my gosh, Dad, look at this." She goes, "I never felt so safe in my life." Those were her exact words.
This is 4 years ago in the rally by the airport.
Correct.
The other airport.
Right.
Okay.
So she didn't come with me this time because she's eight months pregnant, and the heat and everything else, but she really wanted to. So that was so much on our minds there that we talked about it for, I don't know, we just talked about it. We were like so awe-inspired by the, wow. First thing I did when I got here yesterday was I did a complete look around at every rooftop. And I said to myself, that's strange. I don't see one cop, sniper, nothing. I don't see anything. And I just thought, that was kind of weird.
And at what time is this when you're sort of looking around trying to see what you saw 4 years ago?
It's probably about, well, 4 years ago, we noticed it.
Today, I mean, or yesterday. What time was that when you started looking?
Probably about 2 hours before he came on stage.
Okay.
But I didn't stop looking because it's something that was in my mind because of it was so noticeable back then, but it was also just as noticeable not being that way.
And then did you notice, because on that barn right there, that's where the law enforcement snipers were that engaged with the alleged assassin. Did you notice them?
I did not. I noticed nobody because I scanned every roof. And I just thought it was strange because when they show the Google Maps looking down, it really doesn't give the entire picture of the area because right beyond that, there's all kinds of buildings. And that's why I looked around because...
You're saying there's a lot of high points. If somebody was on another roof and wanted to fire towards the
right across 68 right here, there's a big sports complex has a high roof. I knew the AGR building because I know of it.
That's where the assassin was planted on top of.
Correct. I was going to park there because I know a lot of people coming from that, they don't know the area. And I'm thinking that would be a great place to park. It's close. It's real close. I could park right there. I'd be out quick because it's right off the main road.
Yeah.
So,
So we're going to park there and then you decided not to.
Yeah, but I decided not to because there was so much traffic on this main road that I couldn't get to it. So I
couldn't get to it. Did you even drive by? Did you see it?
I drive by it every day.
It's easy because I drove by it as well. It's easy to walk into, essentially. Like if you were to drive over there, you could walk right into it.
Well, that's why I was going to park there because I knew that. But I decided not to only because the traffic was so bad that it would have taken me an hour to get to it.
Yeah.
So I just parked further down and walked in.
He's talking too much.
It was I still can't process it. I think that's why I came back here today because I wanted to look at the where I was at and say how lucky are. I mean, somebody died. That's a shame, but I still can't. I mean, last night I was up all night. I don't even think I slept well, thinking I just can't believe it.
He's talking too much. But again, someone could have dropped the ball, yes, but the crowd reaction was a little too calm for me. Yep, a little too calm. So let's go on and see what MAGA is doing. What are they doing? All right. Where are we? You gotta be kidding me. What's going on? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to get this one. Yeah, that was. Yeah. All history. All history. Nope, it's not. He's not the fighting lead. It sucks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Common Sense Party podcast. Rate, review, follow, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Our mission is to inform our listeners to the topics that affect the everyday person. Rate, review, follow, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Give us 5 stars, give us 4 stars, give us 3 stars. Damn, you can give us 2 and 1 star. You don't give us any stars, I just assume do it properly. We're available on all platforms, available on Spotify, Amazon Music, Samsung. Oh, excuse me, Samsung Podcasts, Pandora, YouTube Music, formerly Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and yes, we're available on Apple. You can support via Cash App or Zelle. Information is available on the About page of our podcast. You can also contact us at the Common Sense Party Podcast via Gmail, Instagram, Facebook, and we will get back to you. So again, today, I think that it was staged to work poll numbers. Yes, people died. We don't condone political violence, but this one is staged. And thank you very much.